Radio is cool.
Tell them it's going to be a rock and roll weekend.
You like it?
I don't want to think. I just want to bang on the drum all day. I'm going to bang now.
Love John Marsh. And I love the fact that more and more that, it's funny because John and I have been knowing each other we're coming up on 10 years. And it seems like every day that you and I get to hang out here, I learn more and more about you. And one of the things I'm learning, you're pretty good with the impersonations. Right? Marsh with one of his...
Radio is cool.
I warned you yesterday, John, that's what he was going to do with it.
And I love this one, too. Did you know John Marsh? He can do Corinne Jean-Pierre.
Well, that's your opinion.
That is really good.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, John, I think it's really good.
Well, that's your opinion.
That's Marsh's KJP. And Marsh's...
Radio is cool.
Marsh's Beavis and Butthead Feel Good Friday. Welcome into the show. Houseworth, you do any impersonations?
I can try a Vern Lundquist later.
Who is that?
Well, when you're in radio, here's one of those inside trade radio secrets. When you're a young disc jockey, as they used to call them back in the day, when you're going and applying for a job, you'd have the boss saying, do you do any impersonations? And I swear, and I've done this because I've interviewed people before. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, if you're doing a morning show, what can you add? What kind of impersonations can you do? And I could have bet a week's worth of Hannah's salary every single time they're going to say, well, I can do an old man impersonation. Everybody in the planet can do an old man impersonation. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you, sir.
John Marsh is here. Is it really?
Ooh.
Johnny Fever.
You want to hear...
We're going to get Brandon's top 40 impersonation.
We've got some old audio from...
Careful, you might offend the top 40 guys in the building.
By the way, here's something else. A lot, and I don't know if it's true. I haven't been... I can't remember the last time I spun records. I want to say it was probably, early 2000s. And
when I was a toddler.
Hannah, who is still getting her diapers changed by her mom, and I'm spinning Britney Spears records on ZZ 103. Another 10 in a row straight ahead, nonstop. But a lot of the air talents, they don't like to be called the disc jockeys.
Right.
They take offense. They get triggered.
Because Hannah's like, what's a disc?
Right?
There actually was a movie, and it's still one of the best movies I've seen, and it was about a disc jockey, and it was called Play Misty for Me.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and it was, I'm telling you, yeah, it was about a woman stalking a DJ, and it was a big deal, and it's realistic. It's pretty realistic in terms of how, they clearly spent time at a radio station because that's the way it was done in those days. But that's the last time I really remember a movie about a DJ.
And a stalker.
Well, that's true, but this one was more. I thought this one was a little more realistic.
Hey, and
yeah.
Where was the local movie about radio DJs? The Soul Graffiti?
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
true.
Cosmo, who's on Y107, Cosmo and Kat, he was in that movie. I think there was a movie that didn't do too well, Airheads, but it had people like Brendan Fraser and stuff like that. All right, I am Branden Rathert. Now that we've introduced all the old white guys on the show, there's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
What up, what up?
Something we can do for you, 874-9390, 874-9390. Marsh, are we adding to the tally when it comes to classified documents this morning? Anything uncovered overnight? As a matter of fact, President Biden yesterday... He's proud of his handling of what he's been telling the American people about the classified documents. And then this statement.
Lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly what we're doing. There's no there. Thank you.
There's no there.
And he also made it, and again, I'm paraphrasing, you may have the soundbite, but he basically told the reporters, I don't know why you're asking me about this. You should be asking about other things. And he was talking about the storms in California. he, obviously he's been briefed, and I think that clearly at the White House, the spokeswoman is telling everybody that she's basically done answering questions. She's going to refer everything to the DOJ, so we'll see. But yeah, that I haven't heard anything new as far as any other discoveries overnight.
So there's no new documents that we're aware of, at the very least. Bridges are up this morning. Weather today, about 40 degrees here on a feel-good Friday. Chiefs in action this weekend against Jacksonville. So we wanted to bring in somebody from Jacksonville media. Like, how hard is that to be a cheerleader for your home team when you're about to go and get your rear end crushed by the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm being assumptive, but I assume sometimes because sometimes it works and sometimes I'm right. And hopefully we're right here. So as it turns out, Joe McLean, you might remember him from his days on ABC 17. Actually spent time here with the Zimmer group. He's now working in Jacksonville, Florida. He's going to be joining us 7:10. And we have a pastor on the show here, the one that I drugged down off the stage at the governor's prayer breakfast, because sometimes when I tell a story,
it's very exaggerated.
Yeah. And sometimes not.
I hope it's not, because it's hilarious.
So at the governor's prayer breakfast, when it was over, fell off the stage. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, for real.
Remind me.
Most people.
Right.
Most people have a mic drop moment at the end of that. You just had a body drop moment, I guess.
After telling the story, you're going to be like Joe Biden. No one is going to want to stand next to you for any pictures or anything after everyone hears, hey, if you're standing next to Branden and he goes down, guess what? You're going with him.
So, Pastor, the dude I brought down with me, they're all going down. Gosh darn it, he's here at 8:10 to fact check my story. So, a lot of cool things happening on a feel-good Friday. Winners and losers of the week, 8:35. Things kids should be taught in school. They're not getting taught in school anymore. We might jump into some of this throughout the morning. 6:35, we might start with that. Alec Baldwin charged yesterday. My favorite part is watching, okay, so MSNBC, USA Today, CNN. Obviously, oh my gosh, yeah, somebody with a gun, somebody charged. Yes, we've got to get guns off the street. But oh, wait, that's our homeboy, Alec Baldwin. We love Baldwin. How do we handle this? So he's charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. I think there were also, I think someone's already agreed to a plea, and I think that was the person who handed him the gun, and then the person who is on stage in charge of the weapons also received some sort of charge.
So they were doing a movie. This is, what was this, 2021?
It's been a long time.
And he's on a set, and apparently in a scene calls him to fire a gun, and apparently the gun was somehow loaded. It was a prop gun that went off. But remember, and he did a TV interview with George Stephanopoulos on ABC. And I always wonder, when it comes to something like that, I'm like, should you be talking regardless of how innocent you think you might be? Do you go on the TV? Well, yeah, it's George Stephanopoulos because, he's going to bend over for you. But is it still a wise move?
I think any lawyer would say no.
Well, that's what I wonder. What would you, even though you don't handle criminal law, if
no, I would no.
Hey, Stephanie,
but I'm innocent. I'm going to go defend myself. That never goes well, I don't think.
But Stephanie, Marissa Hollywood from ABC 17 called me, wants to do, and you'd say
no. Let it play out in the courts.
And so and in that interview, I don't know if you remember this.
Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
Well,
what's the game we played the other morning? Not it.
Yeah.
Not it. That's what they're playing in the White House this morning, as more and more officials within the administration keep coming out and saying, hey, I didn't know anything about it. Wasn't me. That's what Baldwin is saying. Somebody's responsible, but it ain't me.
Yeah, and I think that's where the three of these folks get involved, because I think they said, I think his thing was, well, if the guy who handed it to me checked it, then it wouldn't happen. And if the person who was responsible for all of the prop weapons had done their job, then it wasn't me. And I think, the victim's family is saying, look, if any one of you would have checked, she would still be alive.
John, I know you like to hunt stuff, and I know you take your gun safety very seriously. What was the first thing you learned when you were taught, hey, you're going to go hunting, here's how you handle a gun, here's how you do it safely? What was the first thing you were taught? I haven't fired a whole lot of guns. I love to shoot with my dad once in a while. He recently got to fire an AR-15, made him giggle. But I remember even as a kid, you just never point a gun. And I remember sometimes, what about this? Like, how far do you take it? Because, like, you'd get some moms in the neighborhood when we were playing cowboys and Indians with the pop guns, and you'd have the water guns, and you'd get some of those moms that come out on the porch with their hair in a bonnet, waving the frying pan at you. You don't point those guns at somebody. Toy guns? You know, how far do you take it? John, you don't point that gun at anybody.
I mean, those Nerf guns have gotten really serious lately, and in close range, I mean, they can hurt you. I don't love. I mean, my kids have plenty of Nerf guns, but yeah, I don't love that.
Stuff happens, and stuff happened, and somebody died. So Alec Baldwin being charged. Somebody's responsible, but it's not me. Well, there's prosecutors in New Mexico that disagree with what you're saying there. Coming up just a few minutes from now here on the show, we are going to be doing the daily DC Rundown. I want to give a quick shout out. As a matter of fact, this guy is going to be one of my winners of the week. 8:35 every Feel Good Friday. We pick winners and losers of the week. And we've got a dude, Nathan. He is being deployed to, he's being deployed. I don't know if I can say where he is going to. He is listening from Norfolk, Virginia this morning on the app. All around good dude. He'd been a texter for a long time. I'd never met the guy. And you know what's cool is when we meet people that come on the show, that some of these people we've never met.
At the Mizzou game, I met Matt Pitzer, and I've never met him in person, and I saw his name tag, and I'm sure I freaked him out because I think I fangirled. I was like, Matt Pitzer, oh my gosh! You know, I love talking to you on the show, and he was kind of like, who are you? And then he realized, and it was like, oh, okay, this is fun.
It's just as cool for us to meet you, I think. But Nathan is one of these guys. I recognized him. Recognized name. He approached me in the gym, and he says, "Hey, are you the guy that works with Stephanie Bell and producer Hannah?" And I said, "Why, yes, I am."
Lucky guy.
Yeah, and he says, "It's Nathan." Oh my gosh, how cool is that? All right, coming up, he is getting deployed. He is one of my winners of the week. He is the kind of dude you definitely want repping us when we go overseas. Coming up, Daily DC Rundown. What do you
Politico published that opinion in a leak that Chief Justice John Roberts called an egregious
lack of trust is what he called it. That's getting us into today's daily D.C. rundown, trying to who's the leaker, who's responsible. Stephanie's been following this story closely, and that's what leads us off in today's daily D.C. rundown.
Well, after 8 months, 120 interviews, we have no idea.
Who's the leaker?
They don't know.
And apparently they said like some 80 people could have potentially, the way I understood it, like maybe some 80 people could have.
Well, at least 97 people played a game of Not It and swore that they didn't disclose the draft. So they asked people just straight up, did you disclose it? And they said nope. They swore under oath.
So they're playing the Alec Baldwin game.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
Somebody, but it wasn't me.
Well, they talked to a whole bunch of folks. They said the investigation is not fully over. They said there's some electronic data analysis that still needs to occur, but right now they can't be for sure who took it, or who disclosed it. They said they couldn't rule out an inadvertent disclosure. For example, by being left in a public space, either inside or outside the building. So you've got the opinion and just, oopsie, the most important opinion in the last 50 years, I just left it on a bench. And I'm thinking, if you have like a check for like $20, maybe I misplaced that. If I have a check for $20,000, I'm probably going to keep a pretty close eye on it. So it's not like, if you've got like the most historic opinion in your bag, you're not just going to leave it behind, I don't think.
Or maybe you put that historic opinion in a garage. You at least lock the garage.
Right. Well, they did say that in this analysis that they recognize that the Supreme Court has outdated security policies, access to, and that too many people have access to the sensitive information. They also said that a lot of the employees acknowledged telling their spouse the vote count or, something about the opinion. And actually admitted to that. So they said, there are some things that we've realized through the investigation that we're going to have to clean up.
Which is interesting. I think some people in certain professions, you come home at the end of the day and you want to share with your spouse. You want to share how your day was. And sometimes you got stuff that's sitting on your head and you just want to get it out of there. But some people in some professions
shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I can't talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, and so that's, again, all over the Dobbs decision. And we heard from former Representative Walsh this week that the March for Life is happening today in D.C., whereas before they were really focused on, Supreme Court stuff. Now that debate after Dobbs really goes over to the Capitol. So they're focused on, kind of talking to Congress.
By the way, there's a lot of religious leaders that are, and some right here in Missouri, actually, religious leaders that are saying, hey, they need to make restrictions. They need to loosen restrictions. States need to loosen restrictions. These are people in religion saying this.
And about the documents, Joe Biden said, there's no there. He said, we found a handful of documents filed in the wrong place. Can you say documents in a garage were filed?
I filed them underneath the 10W40 motor oil on the shelf. It's where you keep your stuff, right, Marsh? Right beneath the motor oil. Coming up, why libs of TikTok and a state senator are getting concerned about what some Columbia Public School students saw yesterday.
Nobody cares about spelling anymore, right? Because we got spell check and we got autocorrect, and that takes care of most things, but not everything. Like if you're like me and you get that red squiggly line under a word, and then it gives you 10 options to choose from, you're like, it's harder now. I didn't know the first time. I'm not gonna know when you give me 10 multiple choice options to choose from, right? Just throw something in, Bill Gates. I don't know,
Corey Michaelis. I love that because you get a lot of kids. There was a guy I used to work with in Florida. He was in his early 20s, and I would ask him something, and he would say, and he was an intelligent dude. He was book smart, let me say. He'd studied a lot, so he was a book intelligent dude. And I would ask him, like, hey, do you know? And he'd go, oh, yeah, I know. And then he would Google it. I eventually learned, oh, you don't know it. You're just Googling it. That's all.
Using his resources.
But we've gotten so lazy with spelling because of the computer. You don't need to do it. And I will, one of the worst experiences of my life was the bar exam.
How come?
Well, because it was the bar exam.
Enough said.
But there's a written portion, and you're used to Microsoft Word and everything else, and you put this special program on your computer, and you basically got the old notepad.
No.
Yes, it was just like a white screen. I think you could bold and underline, but there was no spell check, no formatting, nothing. And I feel sorry for the person who had to read my test because my spelling, I'm sure, was terrible.
Well, you apparently passed. So you're good.
Yeah, and we appreciate the fact that you're here. And there's and that's what I wonder what's taught in schools nowadays. Well, we know what's happening in one local school. We're going to get to that story here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. This is getting some national attention from libs of TikTok. But like I was telling Hannah earlier, I've got some nephews go to school in the Wentzville area. They don't teach them cursive handwriting anymore. And I guess that's where your kids go to the school, they teach the cursive?
They know of cursive, but it's not
I've heard of it. I've heard stories.
Like my daughter, when you're a third grade girl, you do all sorts of weird stuff with your handwriting. So they've seen it and they kind of play with it, but it's not what we had to do where you had to practice it over and over. And even me, have you written a check lately? I'm still okay, the T or the F. I'm okay, let me think here.
I have not written a check in a long time.
Oh, I have.
874-9390. So we posted on the Facebook page, what are some things that should be taught in schools? A couple of highlights real quick that you're thinking or in your mind.
Y'all need to, we need to open a school because our listeners have a lot of really good ideas. I never replaced the light bulb in my blinker yet.
Oh, come on.
So basic car maintenance, I think, is one, and one that I have gotten on to my old university about, and I think could be done better in high school as well, is basic personal financial literacy.
Hannah?
The number one answer from the post on the Wake Up Facebook page would be personal finance.
Yeah.
And I believe that is a requirement for graduation in the state of Missouri.
No.
I believe so.
No one ever taught me that.
I had to take it to graduate.
A class?
Yeah, it was a semester-long class.
I know.
Yeah, so at least the way we did it in Centralia, we did some of the Dave Ramsey course.
That's good.
So we kind of just focused on the first couple of baby steps. So, the basics of what's a checking account versus what's a savings account, how to write a check, how to balance your checkbook. We talked a lot about how to pay off debt. And how the basics of how to plan for retirement. But yeah, I had to take that to graduate.
I would say mechanics because I'm horrible with cars. If you ever have car issues, you don't go to Hannah because you know who Hannah goes to when she has car issues? She comes to me.
Not no mo.
Not anymore. She doesn't. Steph has she's got her turn signal lights, but it's sitting in her cup holder. Marsh would be you rebuild cars and stuff, don't you? Or you at least have some sitting out in your front yard on cinder blocks to make people think that you're rebuilding them. Welcome to the show. So we're going to be covering that throughout the morning. Some great responses. I think, and I'll keep going back to, I think when kids go to college, I think they should reteach the Constitution. Absolutely.
I think so too. I think cooking. We've all heard those stories. I think somebody that I know tried to make a grilled cheese in a toaster put something in the microwave for like half an hour because they had never used the microwave before.
Why are you looking at me?
You've tried to make a grilled cheese in a toaster?
Oh,
No, but Brandon's like staring me down as if I'm the person you're talking about.
I have a cheat recipe for grilled cheese. If you're in a hurry, you put your toast in the toaster and you take your piece of American cheese and you drape it over a butter knife and you hold that butter knife over the toaster just high enough so that it warms the cheese, not to where it melts, but it just warms the cheese. As soon as the toast pops out, you put it in between the toast. Boom, melted cheese.
No.
That's what I learned at Southeast Missouri State.
I went to Jeff City High and I had World Foods and it was really great. We had but it was an elective class. But I think a lot of people, we talk about health and all the things going on in the world. And I think if we knew a little bit more about food coming out, we would be better off. Now, Southern Boone has like the learning garden, and so they grow food and learn about vegetables, and I think that's really great. I didn't have that.
Wondering, maybe some schools, they should teach how to investigate or look into things. A lot of traction. Senator Caleb Rowden has posted this. Libs of TikTok. I don't know if you ever get onto the Libs of TikTok.
I know of it. I don't really follow it.
They've got some good stuff from time to time, but apparently there is the city of Columbia putting on their annual Columbia Values Diversity Breakfast. They invited some school folks. They invited some school kids. One of the things they did is they had a performance from some drag performers. And apparently, and there's a video, I've seen you've got people like City Councilwoman Andrea Weiner tipping these drag performers. This happened at the Holiday Inn Executive Center. And listen, should kids be exposed to drag shows? No, I just don't. Do I want my kids to see drag shows? Nope. Do I have an issue with drag shows? No. You want to dress up and pretend you're a chick? That's okay. You want to go watch those shows? Whatever. Don't take the kids, and if you're going to, tell the parents. That's the bigger issue here. Is apparently Columbia, and here's what's funny is we're watching some of what's happening with the Columbia Public School District in the city is regarding so there were kids apparently in this room seeing drag performers. That is just flat out wrong, but it's consistent. Columbia Public School District, they are incredibly consistent. But basically is what we're seeing, according to Libs of TikTok.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
So there's an email from David Seaman, who sits on the school board. He says the most of the program is unknown to the public. If you have any issues with the scheduled events during the diversity celebration, the best action would be to address your concerns with the city council or the office of the city manager. Libs of TikTok has a response from the spokesperson from the Columbia Public School District. And they go on, the performance included the national anthem, faith leaders, this, and that, WNBA superstar Renee Montgomery, keynote speaker. The last portion was a 15-minute dance and singing performance by Inclusion. And they include a link to the website, to the city website, where kids were at this event. So if somebody from the school district would have simply went and researched and clicked that link, they would have seen, and Inclusion is going to be there. Well, who's Inclusion? Parents didn't know this was going on, and there's actually even apparently
there was a permission slip. And I think that's, as a parent, we get permission slips all the time. Hey, we're going to the park. Does your kid want a sack lunch? Okay, fine. Whatever. And but it was a pretty detailed, permission slip and said, hey, your kid's going to go to this, diversity breakfast. And, nowhere in there did it say anything about, a drag show. And I would also say it was not high school students. It was middle school students. I have a middle school age son. And so, I think if it would have said, hey, by the way, there's going to be this performance by this group, as a parent, I could have made an informed choice, regardless of how I felt about drag shows or about the age of my kid, and I would have been informed. I think some parents, if my kid came home and said, hey, Mom, guess what I saw today? And I was like, really? What? Mm-hmm. It would, having not had the opportunity to talk about it first, I think, is really tough as a parent.
Yeah, and it's flat out, it's wrong. And again, and that's the thing, Columbia Public School District, they are consistent with their poor leadership. This is consistent. And regardless of what you think, because people, well, what's so wrong with drag shows? Listen, I don't have an issue with it. I don't. Do I want my grandkids to go and see it? Sure don't. I would no less want them to bring in dancers from rumors, which is as much as Missouri has stripper. I don't want dancers from rumors.
Look, I've been to a drag show, but I bought a ticket, so I knew I was going to a drag show. I think that's part of the problem is that, the parents, and you know what? I didn't take my kid, right? So I think, that I think is a lot of people showed up and did not know that's what it was. And I think, and especially for the kids. And so I think that's where the issue was. If the permission slip would have said, hey, there's going to be a drag performance and people made an informed choice either way, fine. But that's not what happened here.
It's flat out wrong. I've reached out to city manager, to Carlin Seawood, to ask him about this. Said we would like to get some of your time because we have at least apparently on record, at least a couple of officials saying, yeah, you need to contact the city about this. I still call BS. That's Alec Baldwin. Somebody's responsible. It's not me. If you're, as a school district, if you're responsible for the kids and you're letting parents take them out on a field trip and it says on the City of Columbia's website it's going to include a performance by drag show, somebody dropped the ball again within the Columbia Public School District.
And regardless of what the performance is, I think anytime you're kind of shocked, it shocks the conscious. I went to a business function, and there were skits involved, but it was heterosexual skits, and I was embarrassed. I was like, my friend's parents were there, and I was like, this is a little bit racy for a business, and I was made uncomfortable, and so I don't think it has anything to do with the nature of the performance itself, but I think you get to a level where this is not the forum for what we're doing here.
And kids. 874-9390. Tara, welcome into the show. What's up?
I was just calling in. My son was one of the students that was at the event yesterday. He actually has severe autism and is in a district classroom in Columbia Public School District. And he was invited by his principal to go and be part of it with some classmates from his school, which I was really excited about because originally, disability is often left out of the diversity conversation. And we really struggle with getting him involved in the school, and he's only been invited on 2 field trips his entire school career. He's typically isolated with his peers, these kind of things. And so we were really excited, and we worked really hard to come up with a plan to make it successful for him because there's several hundred people there. Our principal even worked with the city of Columbia getting a table at the edge of the room. So they knew he would be in attendance because we set up a special table so that it would be a less it'd be a better sensory experience as far as noise and people at the edge of the room.
Hey, Tara, can you do me a favor? I want to chat with you. I have to take a quick break. Are you willing to hold for a few minutes? Because I want to hear your story. Can you hold?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you. So, Tara, she is a parent. Her child who has autism, you said?
Yes.
All right. Was there, and want to find out the rest of the story, whether they knew what they were told by the Columbia Public School District. We'll get into that coming up just a few minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio 950 K.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
Sound like Baldwin in that TV interview prior to him getting charged yesterday. Somebody's responsible, it's not me. Sounds an awful lot like what a local school district in mid-Missouri is doing this morning. They took some students to an annual, it's the Columbia Values Diversity Breakfast, Holiday Inn Executive Center. So this is taking place, I'm guessing, yesterday while Wake Up Mid-Missouri is on the show. And parents were shocked to the point State Senator Caleb Browden has tweeted about this. Libs of TikTok have picked up a story on this. Drag performers at this show where kids were. And I don't care if you think drag's okay. I don't care about people that want to dress up and pretend like they're a chick and do comedy and all that stuff. This is wrong for two reasons. Shouldn't be in front of kids that are under the age of 18. And I ask people, you might be okay with it. Are you okay with your kids? But I think the bigger issue apparently is what we're getting at least from, according to Libs of TikTok, one school board member, David Seaman, said the program is unknown to the public. City officials oversee the planning and programming. There is also apparently a response from the public information officer from the Columbia Public School District. Says the last portion was a 15-minute dance and singing performance by Inclusion. And they include, and it says, if you have questions about the event or the organization of the event, you should contact the City of Columbia Office of Cultural Affairs. There is a link. You go onto the website. It says on the City of Columbia, here's what we're going to do. One of the performances is by Inclusion. I would think anybody, if you're taking kids out of a school building, and parents have signed permission notes, by the way, if you're taking them out of a school building, you're going to check out what was on there. A simple search on the City of Columbia's website would have said Inclusion. Somebody with half a brain there in the school district would have said, oh, yeah, maybe this is not a good idea. Listener Tara has called in. Child who is autistic, diversity, and inclusion, and we don't include people that have special needs, as they're called sometimes. We don't include them enough in, hey, diversity and inclusion. Tara, thank you for staying with us. I'm going to have about a minute here. Your child went, special needs, super excited. Let me ask you this first. Are you okay with drag shows personally?
Yeah, if a consenting adult wants to do that, that is their choice, and I have no issues with them making that choice.
What was so did the principal that invited your child, did the principal know? Do you know? Did the principal know that this is going to be taking place?
In fact, the principal is the only person I've gotten an apology from. He called yesterday afternoon, and we had a conversation, and he was very apologetic, and he's like, he's like, I should have vetted. I didn't realize this would be a thing. And I think that several people have been to this breakfast before and had different types of performances and weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
And, and he's the only one that said, I had your kid. It was my responsibility to vet. And I told him I really don't put this on him at all. But that was his response.
All right, Tara, and is your kid okay this morning?
Yes, he's fine. I mean, he isn't verbal, and so that's part of the reason I have problems is I don't know what he processes, and we can't have conversations. And lots of times, like, we monitor his shows.
Tara, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude. I'm not cutting you off. We are absolutely positively out of time. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is completely sad what happened with CPS. Chiefs, Jacksonville rundown coming up 7:10.
Radio is cool.
Tell them it's going to be a rock and roll weekend. I don't want to think. I just want to bang on the drum all day.
John Marsh, who's nailing impersonations. Marsh with his Beavis and Butthead. That is a direct quote from Marsh yesterday.
Radio is cool.
And we have fact-checked your statement. And you're pretty accurate, bud. Welcome into a Feel Good Friday edition of the show. Coming up, Joe McLean from Jacksonville. Now, you might recognize the name. He was on ABC 17 for a lot of years. He worked here at the radio stations. He is now a TV news guy in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm wondering when you're in, kudos on the Jacksonville Jaguars for what they did. Young quarterback, but they're coming to Missouri, facing the Chiefs. Like, how do you put a positive spin on something like that? He's going to be joining us coming up about 2 or 3 minutes from now. Here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, there's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
I'm really looking forward to hearing from him because I think there could be a special guest in the stadium tomorrow. I'd like to find out if he knows if he's going to be there.
All right. There's John Marsh. Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
Joe McLean going to be joining us here in a few minutes. I want to go back to this story. State Senator Caleb Browden, numerous parents talking about this, even via text 874-9390. City of Columbia does a values diversity breakfast every year. Apparently, Columbia Public School students were in attendance. Middle school students were there, and as part of the festivities, there was a performance by some drag dancers. And the two issues. Number one, should not be in front of kids under 18. No more than I would bring in a comedian like Andrew Dice Clay or whatever to perform for kids. I'm cool with the stuff that Andrew Dice Clay or whoever, any comedian that you find offensive, I'm cool with the stuff they do. Do I want my grandkids to go and see it? Nope. But at the very least, if I think about it, do I at least want to be in the equation because I'm a parent? Didn't happen with the Columbia Public School District. Now, I will say, here's what at least two members we know of, two officials with the school district in Columbia. This is a school district in mid-Missouri. Here's what they are saying following students viewing a drag performance, Holiday Inn Executive Center yesterday. School board member David Seaman. He says the program is unknown to the public. Other than the keynote speaker, the program is unknown to the public. If you have any issues with the scheduled events during the diversity celebration, best course of action, address your concern with either the city council or office of the city manager. I have reached out to city manager, to Carlin Seawood this morning to see if he would like some time to come on and perhaps there's, I don't know, maybe there's an explanation. But the gist, the vibe I'm getting is that school officials are saying, we didn't know that there were going to be drag dancers at this event. We heard from one parent. She's got an autistic child who was there. The parent told us just minutes ago, she says, I'm cool with drag shows. I go to drag shows. I don't want my kid going. And my kid, who, by the way, diversity, he has autism, was thrilled to be invited to this event. And I want to say this. She said the principal of the school that her kid goes to, who had invited him, he has personally apologized for it. He said he didn't know either. It was on somebody. I wonder who at the Columbia Public School Districts did know.
Well, somebody's going to have to answer questions. Yeah. And here's the thing. Dr. Yearwood and Michelle Baumstark, I'm sure, are listening to us this morning. And they probably don't like you bringing it up, but you're bringing it up because it's coming up at the Capitol right now. Look at Nick Schroer. I want everybody to look at Nick Schroer, the state senator's tweet from O'Fallon. Quote, parents are rightfully outraged. It is time this school district, meaning Columbia Public Schools, comes to the Missouri Capitol to answer many questions before the Senate Education Committee. How can this happen? How did it happen? Why? Groomer behavior should not be allowed. End of quote. Now, that's a quote from the state senator. Basically, what he's saying is he wants to haul them before a committee and have them testify. That's a serious issue.
By the way, that parent who joined us, so she says her kid is fine this morning. He's nonverbal, has autism. Chuck Basie probably knows a good attorney if you would like to pursue legal action.
But toward the end of her comments, she also said, hey, we screen what TV shows he watches. And I think for a lot of, like growing up, my family, we didn't watch SpongeBob, right? And so it would be weird to be in a household where you watch what your kid watches on TV and then unknowingly send them to something that maybe you would not have approved.
And they may not have known, they may not have known this, whatever this group was that was going to perform. It used to be years ago, it was usually a preacher or, this just is not something that I've ever heard of happening there before.
And Columbia Public School District, and I always try to one of the things they do well, they help with kids in high school that are trying, that want to go and do something other than college. The other thing that I should compliment them on is they're consistent. 874-9390. Before we chat with Joe McLean from Jacksonville, Florida, Laura, real quick, is joining us here on the show regarding this topic. Laura, what are your thoughts on this?
Hi, this is Dr. Laura Wakefield, and I've had the privilege of being part of the LGBTQ community as an ally to work with volunteering at Mid-Missouri Pride Fest. And I have learned in working with the drag performers in the community, they are very focused on consent. So they're pretty strict about anyone coming into their shows. They need to be 18 and older, and it's very clear that it's adult content, right? So I know that that is really important to their community. Also, in Mid-Missouri Pride Fest, there's various performances going on the stages during the day. And they're very specific on the schedule about what performances would be going on, right? And so I think that this would be something, even for the performers, that was probably very confusing for them to, I don't even know if they knew that kids were going to be there. So I'm also concerned about the very difficult position they put the performers in as well.
All right, Doctor, thank you for calling. And before we let you go, I want to ask, somebody should have known. It would seem to me. I don't know this personal thing. I'm not buying the excuse we're hearing from folks. Oh, he didn't know that there were going to be drag dancers there, and we didn't think. And then we've seen the permission slip on this field trip. Nothing about that. Your take on that?
I think it's pretty typical of Columbia Public Schools. They don't plan. They rarely prepare for things. Some of my clients didn't even get permission slips who are in programs with disabilities. I believe Tara, who was on earlier, also never got a permission slip. So they were never even really informed of the content of the entire program. Right. Also, as someone who, may not want my children to be exposed to like prayer or something, right? They said there's an invocation. Parents didn't even know that. So people from these different religions, did they even know what type of prayer was being done or invocation was being done? So it seems like a lot of details were left out where parents didn't really get to have informed consent.
Laura, we appreciate you taking part in Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Sure enough, and I'm looking here at the rundown. It actually doesn't say anything about prayer. Not that I'm opposed to prayer.
They've traditionally had, I don't know about yesterday.
Welcome to the show, Feel Good Friday edition. Brian Houseworth, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah John Marsh is in the house. My name is Branden Rathert. Joe McLean, longtime TV reporter for one of our local television stations, ABC 17, did a lot of work for us here too. He is now in Jacksonville, home of that beautiful head of hair from Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jack. Joe McLean, how are you, bud?
I'm doing well. It might be the most famous head of hair in football right now, with the one exception of perhaps Mahomes.
Hey, so we want to, and by the way, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us from Jacksonville. We know what we're saying here in Missouri is the Chiefs and Jaguars. Get ready. This is John and Brian, and we're going to be sitting down on the couch tomorrow, 3:30, Chiefs, Jaguars. How does Jacksonville media, how do they put a positive spin on facing, in my opinion, one of the best football teams in all of the NFL? Like, what's the take in Jacksonville?
I would say it's probably one word, and that word is momentum. I mean, because let me take you back to last week, and I shared with you, Branden, the little video clip that I experienced when I was doing my live shot after the game. So this was a game that, you understand, for people who aren't familiar with the Jaguars-Chargers game last week, they were 27 points down. It was 27-0. Mm-hmm. These fans were absolutely defeated. I was interviewing people as they were leaving the stadium, like before the half. So this was a complete turnaround, and it just like exploded the hype after that game, the city was just like lit up, and everybody was just taking that energy. And I think that's the energy that's going to Kansas City. Everybody is hyped, and I think like the thing that people are looking at the Jags team is their ability to sort of like make adjustments on the field, because that's kind of really what we saw last week. We saw they weren't playing well. This is my expert sports knowledge, as Brian Houseworth knows. They weren't playing well, and they saw the adjustments they needed to make, and then they turned it all the way around. They got their defense up, and they started scoring, and then it was like you couldn't write the game better. It was in the final like couple minutes that they put the score over. So it was incredible.
Beautiful game. To that, I will say, good luck. Whatever.
Joe, it's great.
Hey, I don't know who I'm rooting for. I don't know who I'm rooting for. Might be rooting for the Chiefs. Might be rooting for the Jaguars. I don't know. I'm just going to see.
You, of course, come from Kansas City. Joe, it's great to hear your voice very quickly, because I know you're busy and Brandon's busy. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne played at Clemson. They've had a lot of comebacks before. Dabo Swinney is their former coach at Clemson. Will he be at Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow? What are you hearing?
I mean, I can't imagine he wouldn't be. I mean, for a game like this, and then like for just kind of, routinely a rare playoff run from the Jaguars anyway. I mean, I think it's special, and then particularly how far the Jaguars have gotten so far.
I would think so too.
Still, I don't think this is a game that anybody who has any connection to the Jaguars is going to miss this one. I bet you they'll all be in the city of fountains.
Joe McLean, longtime news reporter for ABC 17, and here on the Eagle, now lives in Jacksonville. Some insight what they're saying on Jacksonville sports radio and in the newspaper. Man, it is so good to hear your voice. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Thank you. Good to be back on the 93.9 airwaves.
All right, you bet.
Talk to you guys soon.
See you, bud. Coming up here on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS, we're going to do What's Hot with Hannah. What do you have for us?
You ever forgot to turn in a library book?
Yes.
What about for 58 years?
Nope.
Whoa.
One of the things maybe they should teach in school, this is big on our Facebook page this morning, what should they be teaching in school that they're not really doing anymore or have never done? We're going to do some more of that.
Well. Old habits die hard.
7:25-ish, which means
It's 7:26.
I was on a 10-game win streak, man.
I knew it wasn't going to last long. I knew.
Who? All right. Who made what bets, by the way? Who was betting on how long the streak was going to last? For 10 shows in a row, thanks to a young student at Blair Oaks Middle School. We had been on time with What's Hot with Hannah. Streak is broken. 7:26.
And we all saw this coming.
We knew it was just a matter of time.
It really was.
Somebody.
Your readers aren't on your head, by the way.
You should watch on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And you'll see I'm always looking for the readers. And
He's always grabbing at his forehead for his readers.
Readers or the magic pin.
And you know, it's funny because people sometimes say, "What's wrong with your head? It's got like it's red. It looks like some." It's because I'm always smacking it, looking for my readers. The other thing you would notice if you tune into the YouTube channel, you see everybody decked out in red today to remember everybody deployed. We do that to, hey, you know, if you haven't left the house yet, you can wear red and salute folks who are deployed. Like one of our good listeners who's been listening in Norfolk, Virginia this morning on the app, getting ready to get deployed. What's hot with Hannah today?
Well, we're going across the pond to Britain, where an overdue library book was just returned. And there's something special about the overdue library book, in that it was overdue by 58 years.
How did these things happen?
So it had racked up a bill of over $52,000 because the late fee was like $0.25 a day for every day that it's not returned.
Isn't it just like once it gets over the price of the book, it stops and you just pay for the book, right? That's what I thought.
Apparently not in Britain. But this guy had checked out the book in, 1964. And he said he'd moved a couple times and he'd always come across the book and be like, man, I got to take that back. But yeah, $52,000. Fortunately, the library is like, yeah, we're going to waive that for you, bud.
Marsh, when was the last time you set foot in a library? Yeah. Somebody was asking me the other day, you know, we talk about book bans and we don't want kids going into public libraries to see certain books. And I wanted to be, and I agree, there's some things that shouldn't be in libraries. But I'm also realistic. How many, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm off base. Do kids, besides the school library, do kids still walk into, are they going to the libraries? Is that something they do?
At school, yes. And unaccompanied in your city library, probably not. But,
yeah.
But I mean, I don't think any of us think you're a regular library visitor, Branden. But I will say I've been in the library several times but because I have kids, right?
By the way, the book that was checked out was The Law for Motorists because he was going to defend himself against a traffic ticket.
Last time I was in a library was to get tax documents. That was 7 years ago. What should kids be learning in school? It's hot on our Facebook page. Check it out. We're going to share some of those responses. Hear what people are saying coming up at 7:35.
Like, I just got essays back from my students about their future plans, what they want to do after high school, and a bunch of them were like, I'm defiantly going to collage. I can tell there are people in the room right now that are like, I don't get it. I have no idea what he's talking about. No, you're not definitely going to college, right? Like maybe community collage, but not like, or like Utah State or something, but not a real. Oh, don't get upset with me. I just Googled worst college in Utah. It's not,
that show, obviously in Utah. Kids learning and spelling. We're talking this morning. By the way, that comedian, his name is Corey Michaelis. Pretty good stuff there. And, and I went to community college for a while, and it's a shame because back in the day, in the community college I went to, back then it was called Merrimack Community College. I think now it's called St. Louis Community College, but I went there. I went to Southeast Missouri State. But where this particular campus was, it was in Manchester, and it was like on 9th Avenue, and we would call it the University of 9th Avenue. And it was a community college. But isn't that kind of weird? Like, John, we would make fun of that stuff. But, oh, you just went to community college. I went to SEMO. I went to Mizzou. I went to Central Missouri. That's pretty good. But hey, if you're whatever it is you want to do in community college, what a great way to get more education.
I got a bunch of degrees, and the chances that I spelled definitely right are 50-50. My spelling is bad.
John, let me ask you this, since you have more experience at this than I do. As you get older, in grade school, I got 100% on every single spelling test I ever took, except for one. It was the word February in the second grade, and it was the only morning of my school career that I ever ate breakfast. Because remember, the government would tell you, eat breakfast and you'll do better in school. I swear to God, I ate breakfast that morning.
And now you can't spell anything right.
And I can't. But it's weird. And I would win spelling. I won every single school spelling bee up until the 8th grade. I won classroom,
Nerd
school.
alert.
Okay, George Santos.
And then you grew up, and now you go to the gym.
And then after I got done, then I was a star quarterback at Mizzou for a couple of years. And and then but as you get older, do you forget how to spell words? Because I do. There's words definitely, and then the I's and the E's, which I used to nail.
Yes, I's and E's.
And I nailed that stuff, and I don't know if it's an age thing or what.
So, of course, I'm in lots of wedding planning Facebook groups, and I had to laugh the other day.
Humble brag?
Maybe. I had to laugh the other day. So the word boutonniere.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if you've ever had to try to spell that word, but it's probably French or something, and so it's got a lot of hidden letters in it. And some lady was looking for advice on boutonnieres, and she spelled it Bootneer. Boutonniere.
Spell it like it sounds.
And they're teaching it differently today in school too. And as long as you get the phonetics right in elementary school, they don't even correct you. You used to get if you spell it wrong, they put a line and then they'd write the correct spelling. They don't even do that anymore.
And I'm wondering, as a matter of fact, this is on the Wake Up Facebook page. What are some things that should be taught in school that aren't, used to be, should be? What would top your list, Steph?
Well, we talked about personal finance, which I think it should be on there, but also maybe in particular taxes, like what kinds of taxes there are and how that all works.
What about?
Well, in personal finance is a requirement for graduation. I think it's a semester, so a half credit. But at least the personal finance course that I took, it was very base level stuff. So I agree that you could probably go more in depth, kind of touch on some tax stuff. I think that would be helpful. For me, I think that everyone should have to take an ag science class or issues in agriculture type of class.
Yes.
I like that.
Because there's so much misinformation in the ag industry, and it's just because people are so far removed from it these days that they don't know what they're talking about, and they fall for, labeling tactics and things like that in the grocery store.
I took agriculture at Truman State, and it wasn't because it was required, but like it was either ag or biology, and I had biology in high school, so I was like, that sounds boring. I'm going to do something different, and it was really a great class. I'm glad I took it.
What else? What about you, John? Here's what I would go to. I think, and I know state government is taught, and I'm so far removed from grade school, I don't remember if it was grade school or middle school. You know, you learn about the Constitution, and then after the Constitution and after the federal government, then we learned about state government. I think there should be, and again, I'm far removed from my recollection, I think we should spend more time teaching state government and local government, at least function. Maybe not, oh, and here's how the Fulton City Council works, or here's how the Ashland Board of Law, not necessarily to that town, but here's the function of your local governments, because the more localer,
the more importanter. And I'll say, to Mizzou Law's credit, it was really nice. It was an offering when I went there that they did teach state constitutional law. So I had a whole semester about the Missouri Constitution. I think that was really important.
Home ec was another popular answer on the Facebook page.
Cooking.
John, what would you add?
Well, that's your opinion.
Oh, man.
That's Marcia's impersonation of Corinne Jean-Pierre, by the way. It's very good.
Our friend Shimon Jones chimed in on the Facebook page. She said that biology needs to be taught because it seems like that part of science has been avoided lately.
Points. By the way, if you have winners or losers of the week, get those texts in to us, 874-9390, 874-9390. We are picking winners and losers at 8:35. Libraries. I got a text. Somebody says, I take my kids to the library all the time, because I was questioning, like, when was the last time you've been into a library? And I think about me, last time I was in a library 7 years ago to get tax documents. This guy says, we take our kids all the time, and they love going to the public library, not the school library.
Well, and a lot of people aren't motivated by, like, community good or library stuff. It's like they're motivated like you and COVID. Like, they're cheap. They don't want a big hospital bill. And that's what I told you. I take my kids to the library because I'll buy them $20 worth of books, and in 24 hours, they're like, all done. And I'm like, okay, we're going to the library. I don't have that kind of book budget.
Can we tell them the conversation you and I had in the break, Brandon?
Yes.
So Brandon asks me, he goes, when's the last time, Hannah, you were in a library? I said, oh, just a couple months ago, I think. And he goes, and what did you do there? I checked out some books, Brandon. He goes, oh, duh.
874-9390. I know, right? Duh. Well, and that's what I was trying to think. So it's almost the point, an old guy like me, I think a library, we think books, but there are so many things. And I wonder if books is even really the focus of a library anymore. It's kind of a homeless shelter sometimes for people. It's a babysitter.
It's like a Blockbuster, though. They, like, when I took the kids, especially in Jeff City, their video collection was so big. They had so many DVDs and things that we went there a lot and checked out video.
Well, did you see Jack's text at 874-9390? So he said that a class that should be taught in school is drag show diversity.
Man.
Oh, man.
It might be too soon for that, Jack.
As a matter of fact, we have reached out to city officials in Columbia, State Senator Caleb Rowden, I think Nicholas Schroer. There's other folks that are on this. Apparently, City of Columbia hosted their annual Columbia Values Diversity breakfast. We got a lot of texts and phone calls from parents on this morning. And apparently there was a permission slip for Columbia Public School students to go. The one I'm looking at specifically, Smithton Middle School permission slip. So parents had to sign a slip, but nowhere on the slip did it say, "Hey, by the way, there's going to be some drag performers there." And is what we are seeing. This, according to Libs of TikTok, a response from David Seaman, he is an elected school board member. What he is saying, city officials oversee the planning and programming for the event. Other than the keynote speaker of the program, other than that, keynote program is unknown. Let me make sure I get this right. There's the keynote speaker. Other than the keynote speaker, Basically, the program is unknown to the public. Contact the city if you have issues. The public information officer put out a statement, too, says, there was this, and this. If you have questions about the event or the organization, contact the city. We had one parent called in this morning. She says, hey, I'm cool with drag shows. I've gone to drag shows. I have a child who likes to be included and who could be considered one of these diverse groups. He has autism, and he's nonverbal. He went. He didn't know. And as a matter of fact, his principal didn't know. The principal apparently very apologetic to the parent. And so the school, it's kind of, from what we're gathering, it's kind of the Alec Baldwin defense.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
School district in charge of your kids saying, this is on the city. We didn't know this.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me. That's my take. Have reached out to DeCarlin Seawood, city manager in Columbia, to see if we get a comment, apology, whatever the situation might be. Have not heard back yet. Coming up here just a few minutes from now, I want to go back and highlight one of our winners of the week. It's something we're doing at 8:35. You got your list coming together, Steph?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. What about yours, Hannah? How's your list looking?
It's coming along.
Yeah. I'm going to, since we're all humble bragging, weddings, gyms, aces when it comes to spelling, I think I'm going to pick myself for winner of the week.
What?
Name something you love to say to your spouse. Something, Truman, that you would love to say to your spouse, but you don't have the nerve. Say it, Truman.
I cheated on you. It's a bad answer.
Truman, sometimes just take an X.
I like this. That's on Family Feud. The question, and even the guy Truman, incidentally, said, "Hey, this is not, but this is what I think an answer would be to your survey." And I love that from Steve Harvey. Sometimes just take the X.
I love Steve Harvey. He is hilarious.
He is pretty good, and I love the whole premise, incidentally, of Family Feud. I want to highlight something else that's happened recently on Family Feud. But what I love about it, sometimes, and I agree with him, sometimes just take the X. Because my dad used to tell me this all the time. He didn't say it like that. He'd say, "Branden, shut your mouth." But sometimes it's, I don't have to always, because I always want to be right or like in personal whatever. And I always think, I'm going to win this exchange. I'm playing a game and the other person doesn't even know they're involved. I got to, just shut my mouth sometimes. I remember years ago, I was dating this gal, went to Thanksgiving dinner, and, I don't like social settings. I will go, please don't ever stop you from inviting us to things. But it's easy for the show. But personally,
he'll tell you he's going to be there, and then he will flake out at the last minute.
Here's what I will say. I'll say my intent is to be there. That's my intent.
That's a no.
Like this, Hannah's getting married in October, which is, what is it?
You can't miss Hannah's wedding.
I know, and I'm not going to. It's 9 months from now. I'm stressing.
Why? Why are you stressing?
Because I just don't, I'm socially awkward. I just don't do well in crowds of people, and obviously.
Well, it'll be a small wedding.
But I went to Thanksgiving dinner, and it was this gal I was dating, and I told my dad, I'm like, I don't want to go do this, and that's even more stressful, meeting family. And he said, well, just keep your mouth shut. All right, Dad. And I'm not kidding. I said very few words at the dinner table that night, Marsh. And the next day, the gal I was in, she says, my family just really loved you, Jay. Yeah. Oh, what a nice guy. I like when these kinds of things, while we're talking a Family Feud real quick. So but, I think that'd be a winner of the week, 8:35. You got somebody for winners and losers of the week. Get those texts into us, 874-9390. This recently happened on Family Feud, too. To Hannah's point about Steve Harvey.
Name something you might hurt yourself riding on.
Oh, Lord. You know what I'm thinking?
Oh, no.
Name something that you would hurt.
Say it ain't so. Please.
That sound is viral on social media.
So you know the Assumption song we play from time to time?
No.
It's because what did everybody here on the show go to? See, I'm thinking, okay, something I could hurt myself riding on. See, that's not where my head is.
Branden, I'm going to call BS because you're playing this clip for a reason.
Guess where I got the clip from?
Steph.
Bingo. You are correct. Because he asked the question. That's where her mind went. That's where everybody else's mind went. It's the Assumption song. Not on me, but still, it's funny.
You have to play the, what's the one where you flip around the letters?
Oh, Wheel of Fortune.
That one was so bad. It went viral this week.
Speaking of things we should be teaching in school, that's hot on our Facebook page this morning. Here's a guy, and I don't even need to tell you what the puzzle is. I will tell you. And the guy had just hit the $1 million spot. I think he hit $1 million.
$1 million on the line. All of the letters were revealed. There wasn't a single letter covered up.
Everything is up there. Joe Biden, all you got to do is
read the teleprompter.
Just read the teleprompter, man.
I saw.
Oh, well, that'd be a good idea, yeah.
Mythological hero Achilles.
I can't accept that.
Oh, mythological
hero Achilles.
Oh, no.
Ooh. $1 million down the drain. But don't you always say if you don't know how to pronounce something, do it with gumption?
I mean, he did do that, yes.
mythological, heroic Achilles and Pat.
Can't accept that.
Can't accept that.
You can hear the disappointment. He sounds like a disappointed father.
Well, it's like a reporter talking to a field goal kicker who missed 4-point afters in a playoff game. How do you do that? The guy had $1 million on the line, man.
You could taste it. It was right there.
Just read the puzzle, man. Welcome into a Feel Good Friday. We have winners and losers of the week at 8:35. Morning bell at 8:25. Some big news today. Big tech firms. The other thing happening. So the story, falling off the stage at the governor's prayer breakfast in front of 800-plus people. The pastor who I drug down with me, he's going to fact check that story. He is here at 8:10.
Radio is cool.
Tell 'em it's going to be a rock and roll weekend. I don't want to beg, I just want to bang on the drum all day. I'm gonna bang now.
John, your impersonations, you're one of our winners of the week. Your impersonations of Beavis and Butthead.
Radio is cool.
Dead on. I give you points, man. Like huge points. And I
think Brandon and John make a really good duo of Beavis and Butthead. I'll let y'all decide that.
And I also I love the Corinne Jean-Pierre impersonation from John Marsh.
Well, that's your opinion.
That is so good.
She was not having a good week.
She could learn a lesson from that kicker from the Dallas Cowboys. Missed 4 PATs and then still had people shove microphones in his face after the game and say, "Yeah, I know. What can you do?" As a matter of fact, I think he is going to be at least one of my winners of the week that we're going to do coming up at 8:35 on a Feel Good Friday. You can watch the show on the YouTube channel right now. Right now it'd be a prime time. Can you imagine? I'm thinking of let's say like Frosty's Automotive Repair in Jeff City, or a dry cleaner is what I think of. But like a business where they just have like a counter, and you go up in the counter, and they've got the TV and you can watch what's going on. I imagine somebody has the Wake Up Mid-Missouri channel pulled up, and they're walking into a business. Can we zoom in on Steph here real quick, please? Keep doing what you're doing. Seriously, man. Just live your life. You're good, bud.
I have things to do today.
So I'm envisioning like somebody walking into a business like this, and somebody...
Wow, added value. I'm getting free makeup tips and the news.
And
Perfect.
Walking into a business going, why is that on the TV? There's this rather attractive attorney who's putting on makeup. She's dressed in red to remember everyone deployed.
But we're having a big conference in Jefferson City today. The Missouri Federalist Society is meeting. The keynote will be done by the new Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, lots of judges and other lawyers and attorneys in town. So I need a face and makeup for that.
Well, you look great. That's Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah, I am Branden Rathert. Has anybody put a ring on it yet when it comes to the Attorney General's race 2024? We know Bailey now, of course, appointed as the AG. We know there's been some talk about. Well, has anybody put a ring on it, made it official that they're running, that we're aware of?
Well, Will Scharf pretty much all told us on the air that he was going to run, and
Andrew Bailey established a campaign committee.
Yeah, he did, and I think both would be formidable Republicans. Whoever the Democrats nominate in any of these statewide offices, they're going to go in as a huge underdog. This state is ruby red. It continues statewide to be. So the question will be who will win that primary, and there may be others that get in, but Bailey is raising money, and so is Will.
It was interesting to, as a matter of fact, met known Will Scharf for a while through producer Steph. As a matter of fact, we had lunch together last year, and the dude, remember, I said, okay, but where did we have lunch? He remembered the name of the restaurant. I still don't remember the name of the restaurant we had lunch at last year. But was chatting with Bailey, Mr. Bailey, Attorney General Bailey, Governor's Prayer Breakfast a couple of weeks ago. It was a show that Steph and Marsh and Houseworth hosted, and following the prayer breakfast, which I'm honored to ask to be a part of that as the MC, and afterwards hanging out with there was a pastor there, and Dan Mears, Casey Wolf. Seriously, if you ever get a chance to hear this guy speak, I'm not exaggerating. I have a tendency to do that sometimes. This guy is one of the most powerful, funny, informative, entertaining, inspirational speakers I have ever seen in my life. It was remarkable. Anyhow, afterwards, we're on this stage, and they're trying to shift people around. They want to get pictures and all that, and that's my second favorite thing to do besides milling around out in public. I love posing for pictures and smiling, he said facetiously. And so as they're pushing people around, like, I'm guessing they're not wanting me in the photos because I keep getting pushed to the back, to the back. And all of a sudden, I go back far enough, and all of a sudden, there's no more back. There's nothing left. There's a curtain. It's a black curtain.
No wall behind it.
No wall. And I'm going to fall. Thank goodness I look to my left. And there's Reverend Scott Watson. He's pastor at Riverbluff Fellowship in Ozark, Missouri, in the Springfield area. and I grabbed the back of the pastor's jacket. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be okay. And then about 1/1000th of a second into that, I thought, this is probably not a good idea. This dude's a pastor of a church. I probably shouldn't do that. And then about another 1/1000th of a second later, I thought, nope, I need some help. When you need help in life, who do you go to?
The church.
The church. And we ended up falling down together. And and so we brought the pastor in because I want to fact check my story here to see how much of this is true. And that's you're laughing in the background. Reverend Scott Watson, pastor, Riverbluff Fellowship, Ozark, Missouri, joining us in the show. And Pastor, I want to say that the most memorable part of all of that is you and I lying on our backs, looking up at the stage, and our governor looking down at us going, Branden, Scott, you guys all right? Pastor, welcome into the show. Let's hear your version of the story.
Well, thanks. I'm just laughing because that's pretty much how it was. We were standing there. It's funny. I asked my wife last night what she remembered, and she said, well, I remember we were all just standing up there, and it was we were milling around and getting ready for pictures and stuff, and she looked out towards the 800 people that were there and turned back around, and I was gone. And I said, back up on the stage. I didn't really say this, but last night I said, honey, that wasn't my idea. That was Branden's idea that I left so quickly. And so it was pretty crazy. And yeah, it was crazy because that curtain was there, and there's no way we could have known what was behind it, maybe a wall or not. But what I remember was we were in that light, and then all of a sudden we were in this dark hole back in the back behind the stage, and I saw you standing up, and I remember you saying, dude, are you all right? Dude. Yeah, and then I think I answered. I don't usually say that. I was like, "Dude, are you all right?" 'Cause you went away first, and then it was your idea that I went away, and but we were okay.
So how did you guys climb back up onto the stage?
It was like one of those deals where you are trying to get your foot up on the stage, and it's taller than you should really be able to get your foot up on there. I could see the governor and the first lady, and I almost said, I almost held my hand out and said, "Can you give me a hand or what?" But we crawled back up on there and tried to act like nothing really happened, but there was no hiding it.
None at all. Reverend Scott Watson, pastor, Riverbluff Fellowship in Ozark, Missouri. He's the gentleman that I dragged down with me when we fell off the stage together. And so part of it was, and I'll say this. So, I'm not a big fan of being out in public. I get nervous and all that good stuff. I'm getting way better at it. It's something I've overcome. But something like that, I don't know if in the past I would have been able, I probably would have run out the back door crying because of embarrassment. But what was cool, and I don't know what this is, Reverend, but it was kind of like, you know what? It happened, and there's nothing I can do about it. And besides, look at the Reverend. He felt, and you were not in, and I completely forgot to ask in my rush to get out of there. You were not injured or anything like that, were you?
Not a bit. But I do want to say this real quick, Branden. It was funny because I remember when I first met you, we were just getting ready to go up on that platform, and you're right. There's everybody was there. I mean, it was just like a who's who in the place anyway. But anyway, I saw you, and I said, hey, I'm glad to meet you, man. You're famous. And you were like, no, I'm not really famous. You were just so humble. But actually, you are famous now because you're the guy that pulled me off the stage. And so you're famous for a lot of things. But it was just so good, man. You did an awesome job just emceeing that. And you're right. Dan Mears was just incredible. And what an honor it was to be there. But I was thinking, man, there's no better place to fall off the stage and nearly die than at a prayer breakfast because we're praying here, and maybe we pray that we live through this thing. And so it really was No, I wasn't injured at all, and it was just a great memory, and we got out of there. So
Now, I am curious, have you found a way to work this into a sermon yet for your congregation?
Yeah, no, that's good. I've had some people ask, like, did you fall off the stage? I'm like, yeah, it wasn't my idea, but yeah, I did go off the stage. But you know what I was going to tell you too, Brandon, it's not uncommon. Like every Sunday I step up and every Sunday I get to look. I mean, I got a guy that'll fall asleep. I just say good morning and his head goes down and he's not praying. He's falling asleep. And so I'm accustomed to people, even my wife on Chiefs game days, you know, like she'll do the line across her neck to say, come on, cut this thing short and let's get finished. So it's not uncommon that I have people that are like, come on, can you get out of the pulpit or get off the stage? It's just that this was the first time that I actually had anybody physically take me off the stage.
It's like a shepherd's hook, right? Like yank him off the stage.
Yeah, exactly. So,
the only thing I dig more in life, people who are dedicate their, whether it's professional lives or personal lives, to being of service. I have an appreciation for people that dedicate their lives to being of service, and I especially appreciate them when they have a sense of humor and are real about it, as you do. Our guest, Reverend Scott Watson, pastor, Riverbluff Fellowship in Ozark, Missouri. He is the gentleman I dragged down off the stage when we fell off the stage in front of 800 people a couple of weeks ago.
Was Brandon the wicked one here?
That is good.
Hey, Reverend Watson, I think Hannah's really onto something. I might pick her as the winner of the week coming up at 8:35 for the idea. Can you make a sermon out of this? And here's already, here it is. Sometimes, you know, when we fall in life, we're falling, or we know we're going to be in trouble, we can reach out to others to help soften the blow.
That's good.
Right? I'm going to nominate myself for winner of the week, too. That's a pretty good idea.
Because you helped in that. You know, there's that verse of scripture that says iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, which basically just means, hey, we're better together. We do stuff better together. And so that's a good example of that, to find, to get some help, grab on to something, and get help out of it.
Reverend Scott Watson, pastor, Riverbluff Fellowship, Ozark, Missouri. You'll be able to turn your congregation on to this. We should have this posted, I think, by like 10 o'clock this morning. Go to our websites, kwos.com or 939theeagle.com, and you'll be able to hear this in the podcast, and you can turn your congregation in onto it, and the people of Southeast or Southwest Missouri and Ozark, Missouri. Reverend Scott Watson, thank you so much for your time on the show.
You are so welcome, and it was just great meeting you, and thank you so much, and it was good to be here with you all this morning.
All right, thank you. All right, coming up on a Feel Good Friday, it's the Morning Bell. Business news, a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you got?
And I hate to do it on a Feel Good Friday, but we got some bad news about some big-time layoffs.
All right, it's a huge story. It's coming up 5 minutes from now. morning, 8:27, time for the Morning Bell business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
And as we're looking at the market this morning, the stock futures are just barely up, but some bad news in big tech. We've seen a lot of layoffs across various platforms, but this morning, Google, parent Alphabet, says they're going to cut 12,000 jobs across all of their markets. That's a 6% cut in their workforce, the largest cut they've ever done. And they're just saying, hey, it's the economic realities we're looking at this year, and it's what we got to do.
Thanks, Joe. Seriously, I was chatting with over the past couple of weeks, and that was something I always like to do, especially the smaller business owners. Like, hey, man, how are things going for you? And I love, because there's always, hey, yeah, I'm trying to be positive. And I like to ask, hey, what can I do to help you as a small local business owner? We need our small local businesses to do well. But when you have inflation that has approached has hit record numbers, has been approaching 9%, guess what? People have less money to go out and spend on these things. And then guess what? It hits the local business. And then if they shut down, then they've let people go. You've lost more. That is why it is so important when people think about when they vote for these Democrats. These are the real life consequences. This is a real thing since Joe Biden has been president.
Yeah, Google is making clear that they're giving people about 2 months notice, 16-week severance pay, and then there's some additional weeks of severance pay depending on how long you had been at the company. So they are trying to soften the blow for folks. I will say one job that people, if you get laid off from Google and you're looking, this job has gone viral the last week. The salary range issue that we've talked about. Netflix is hiring a flight attendant for the Netflix private jet that apparently pays up to $385,000 a year. So if you want to be a flight attendant on a private jet, I don't know what's included, what the job duties are, but yeah, a lot of flight attendants are saying, hey, like the median pay for flight attendants is like 60 grand. So like 385 sounds pretty good.
About that. And that's the Morning Bell business news. I wonder, too, since it's the Google stuff, maybe it's not related to the Twitter files, but it's amazing the stuff we've learned with the release of the Twitter files, how much the Dems and people in the federal government, as a point of fact, colluded to hide stories from you. I wonder if maybe that's Google. They're laying off some folks. Like, we've got some folks that are going to get in trouble. Maybe that's part of it. Winners and losers of the week. Who do you got? Let us know. 874-9390. We're going to do that a few minutes from now.
Nobody cares about spelling anymore, right? Because we got spell check and we got autocorrect, and that takes care of most things, but not everything. Like if you're like me and you get that red squiggly line under a word, and then it gives you 10 options to choose from, you're like, it's harder now. I didn't know the first time. I'm not gonna know when you give me 10 multiple choice options to choose from, right? Just throw something in, Bill Gates. I don't know, you know?
It's a comedy of Corey Michaelis. Spell check. Do you think there's something to that, like kids now, because, and I don't want to say lazier, that's just the old guy in me. Kids are lazier now, because here's what happens, John. I have a tendency to think, because it's the way I did. And listen, we see city governments locally that are guilty of this too. Why are we doing it that way? Because it's the way we've always done it, and I get guilty of that too. And I think that every way that I was raised and everything that I think and everything that I know, sometimes I can think that's the way it's supposed to be, and that's not necessarily so. Hence, having an open mind and being willing to listen to people. But what about? Do you think the internet, in effect, has caused kids, the younger generation, like they're not, I don't know, not learning? I don't know how I'm trying to word it. Yeah, you can research. Everything is on the internet. But do you think it, like with spelling, you got the spell check. You got anything you want is online right now. Do you think there's something to that, Marsh? Welcome into the show, which, by the way, we've posted on our Facebook page. What should be taught in schools? Hannah, kind of the most common theme that you were seeing. People talking, what should be taught in our schools that maybe used to be, is not anymore, or just what would you like to see taught in schools?
I would say the number one answer was probably personal finance, which is taught in schools. It's a requirement to graduate in the state of Missouri, but it is a pretty basic level finance class. So I could see where, more in-depth financial learning would be
and I wonder
beneficial.
If that's, when I say newer thing, I wonder relatively newer. I don't recall that I took personal finance classes in school. In the ag one, I thought that was interesting too. You can see some of the responses and what people are saying by going to our Facebook page. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. My name is Branden Rathert, joined by Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah, and Stephanie Bell.
And now for nominees for the winners and losers of the week.
Winners and losers of the week. We do it every Feel Good Friday. The more localer, the more betterer, I like to say. Somebody. By the way, we've had a lot of traction on this morning via text. We've got libs of TikTok have picked up on this. State Senator Caleb Rowden, I think Nicholas Schroer has also tweeted about this.
Schroer's called for hearings at the Capitol.
On this, and this is the consistency of the Columbia Public School District. In my opinion, they took some students to the City of Columbia's Values Diversity Celebration, and there were drag performers there. Students were. We had one parent called in. She says, I go to drag shows. She says, my child was there, who incidentally happens to be autistic and nonverbal, and it was not communicated to the parents. The two things that we have seen as it relates to anybody related with the school district, basically, in effect, is what they're both saying is you need to contact the city on this. I have contacted the city. I contacted city manager DeCarlin Seawood very early this morning. As a matter of fact, it was so early, but it was important, and he is the city manager. I enjoy a healthy relationship with Seawood. He comes in a lot when he does Fred Perry's CEO Roundtable. Say, hey, would you like to come on and discuss this? Because school officials are saying, we didn't know there were going to be drag performers there. Based on the history of Columbia Public School District, I would think they're lying about that. Somebody knew that there were kids that were going to see this without parental permission. That is dangerous. That is poor management. But what we're seeing is, well, talk to the city. I've reached out to DeCarlin Seawood. He has responded. And basically is what he says. He says, I don't have a name whose contact information this is, which is interesting because we have a fairly lengthy text history, incidentally. And I like DeCarlin, I really do. But then to say, I don't know who this is, we've got some history on this text. So somebody is lying, Somebody is wrong. Easy loser of the week for me. And I like to pick winners, man. I know people say, oh, you're too positive. Yep, I own it. But, man, this is just so egregious and so disgusting and sad and dangerous for kids. Can't ignore. Who do you have, Houseworth?
I've got 2 winners this week, Brandon. Thank you. I'm going to start very quickly. My mother was treated at Mercy Rehabilitation Hospital in St. Louis, Chesterfield, after her stroke, and the nurses and the doctors were absolutely magnificent, took wonderful care of her. My mommy was even cold a little bit. They made sure she had warm blankets, so thank you to the wonderful doctors there for her care. And the other person I'm going to nominate is Boone County Judge Jeff Harris. And I spent some time in the courthouse yesterday, a big case involving a case that may get some national coverage. His name is Keith Comfort, a murder trial coming up. And the judge is balancing the needs of the media with the needs of, you got to pick a jury. And I won't go into the details of some of the things he's going to do, but it's just an extensive process. And I appreciate his understanding of why we have to report it as well.
I would pick New Mexico prosecutors who said, man, we got this celebrity and we're in this incredibly liberal state, but Alec Baldwin, yeah, you pointed a gun. Yeah, I was on a movie set. Doesn't matter. You pointed a gun at somebody and you killed them. They've charged him. And I still go back to, even at the time, whenever he was on with George Stephanopoulos, I'm like, why? And that was right not too long after it happened. Why would you do that?
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
And he uttered that famous/infamous phrase, somebody's responsible, but it's not me. New Mexico prosecutors apparently disagree. It sounds like something we hear quite often, even in local government.
Someone is responsible, but I know it's not me.
It wasn't us. It was the city of Columbia. It wasn't us. It was the school district.
And I'm still surprised his defense attorney let him go on to do an interview like that. That surprised me.
Marsh, winners, losers? Yeah. Okay. Lenny Dawson was a trophy for meritorious service, had been missing for 40 years. That trophy had been missing longer than Stephanie Bell has been on this planet. And I forgot to mention this yesterday. It's been found, and it was found somebody shoplifting, allegedly.
Was it in his car?
And the car was stolen too. And I totally forgot to mention this. You know why Len Dawson's family, God rest his soul, has that trophy back? Kind of. This is a weird line from point A to point B. Because, well, so and I can't remember if it was mall security or police, but they were increasing enforcement. Shoplifting. We hear about shoplifting in places like San Francisco where progressive DAs, we're not going to charge you for breaking the law. Shoplifting, you need the stuff. You go ahead and take it. They have such a problem with shoplifting in Kansas City that they had extra enforcement just trying to help protect these small local businesses. That's the only reason the dude got caught, because prosecutors won't prosecute that crap, man.
And the businesses that are losing all this, and the people in these neighborhoods and all over the state, they want businesses and they certainly want services. But there are some people that say, well, it's not a big deal, just let the insurance get it. But the reality is some of these businesses lose so much they have to close their doors. That has happened.
I'm also going to nominate Dallas kicker Brett Maher. Man, dude, how do you... Dude, here's why I'm going to call him winner of the week.
Yeah, I'm super happy for the team. This is a big win for us. Definitely didn't do my part tonight. And this team is too good moving forward for me.
And here's why I'd pick him. And I wonder how you see this, Marsh and Hannah, because I say winner of the week, man, what a tough game. Yeah, I know you're paid a whole lot of money to go and kick the ball a couple of times during the game, but to miss 4 PATs in a playoff game, thank goodness they won. But to be able to face the media afterwards, it's like, man, Like when we have a really bad day, can you imagine if somebody come up, stuck a microphone in your face, and Hannah, tell us what happened when this didn't go. So do you call this guy a winner or a loser of the week? Right, Marsh?
No pun intended.
Winner of the week, Hannah.
Thank you.
Who do you have?
Well, so I have Stephanie's list since Steph had to duck out a little early to go do her big girl job. Stephanie wants to nominate John Marsh for winner of the week for his impersonation of KJP that Brandon hopefully has queued up.
Well, that's your opinion.
So Stephanie nominated John for winner of the week. She also nominated Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer. He was the recipient of the Geyer Award, John? Do you know?
Mispronounce it with confidence.
Yeah, there you go. So he was the recipient of the 2023 Henry S. Geyer Award. Hang on, I lost.
No, that's okay. Because I've got some local ones.
Go for it. Rescue me.
Dean Klemker. I always got you back, Hannah. Seriously. Dean Klemker, I believe is the name. He was running for Columbia Public School Board. Wow. And he dropped out of the race, and he dropped out. The reasoning that he dropped out is why I'm going to pick him as a winner of the week. As a matter of fact, coming up, we'll kind of we'll wrap this up when we do leftovers in our refrigerators this morning for
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, my leftovers, still more winners and losers. Dean Klemke, local dude, running for local school board. He's, as a matter of fact, is best as I can tell, according to ballot that I last saw on a story from our news partners at ABC 17. The guy is still actually on the ballot in the Columbia Public School Board race. His name is Dean Klemke, and he dropped out of the race. Apparently, and was what he told local news outlets is, I didn't know what I was getting into. Maybe you should research it beforehand, but still, here's what I appreciate, and here's why I'd pick him as a winner, because he was honest about it. He said, well, I got family obligations and stuff like that. It's hard to sometimes be really honest. He says, I didn't know what I was getting into, so I'm picking him as a winner, and then I joke, but I'm picking myself as a winner of the week.
Gross.
I know, right? It does feel a little weird. I've got this great idea. Columbia Public School District is being sued again incidentally. And I'll pick Columbia Public School District. They're consistent, and I want to say this. There's a lot of really, really good teachers and personnel in the CPS, and I feel so bad with what they have to endure. And not just because of what we see and hear, but seeing several school board campaigns over the years, my dealings with them, the teachers. Literally, I will never forget, campaign last year, literally, not figuratively, literally at some of these campaign events for the more conservative, intelligent candidates, literally in the corners, standing in the corners. I'm not exaggerating, standing in the corners at these places because they were worried somebody from the school is going to find out, hey, I'm for a smart person for school board. It's just incredibly discerning. There are some incredibly fine people with the Columbia Public School District, and I want to make sure we applaud them. But I'm going to pick myself. So here's my idea for Chuck Basie, who is suing Columbia Public School Board. Marsh, it's interesting. Secretary of State says state law will supersede any local election format law. Columbia Public School Board says Chuck Basie, former state rep, didn't file in time. Chuck Basie is pointing, well, state law says this, and Secretary of State has said, I think the law is on Chuck Basie's side. Most attorneys, at least that I have heard from, seem to think the law is on Chuck Basie's side, not on the side of CPS. Have anything that you have heard that's different than what I've heard? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm picking myself as winner for this idea that I threw at Chuck Basie on how to get onto the ballot. Since, as I understand it, Dean Klemke, the guy who dropped out of the race, his name is still on there. Chuck Basie should legally change his name to Dean Klemke. I think it's $1 million idea, man. I'm not kidding. Brian the best part of the Gary Nolan show, Brian Hansen.
He's your winner of the week or loser of the week?
He's a winner of the week because he's getting on board. He has such affinity for Wake Up Mid-Missouri here on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWS. Brian Hansen, the star of the Gary Nolan show, he's even wearing red today. And so we want to appreciate his support of our show.
And it's just for us and not for Patrick Mahomes.
And there's a reason, by the way, that we wear red. And we're not just saying it to brag on ourselves, but it's to remember everyone deployed. But there's a reason we talk about it on the show.
Yeah, we wear red on Fridays to remember everyone deployed, and the hope is that you listening right now would join us as you get ready for work in the mornings on Friday in wearing red.
And Aaron, another winner of the week, via text 874-9390 says, I want to nominate Marsh. So I was going to nominate Marsh for winner of the week because of his excellent...
That was a unanimous nomination almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all around. It was for his impersonation of White House spokesperson Corinne Jean-Pierre.
Well, that's your opinion.
And he's always good with the Beavis and Butthead.
Radio is cool.
But Aaron is nominating you for winner of the week because of your mustache, man. I know. Right? And that's why one of the reasons you should go to our Facebook page or go to our websites, 939theeagle.com, kwos.com. And you can see the Marsh stash, the John Marsh stash. I like it. All right. Anything else? We got our winners and losers. If we forgot somebody, please let us know. Coming up Monday on the show, can you believe there are more solar farms going in Callaway County